present, future coming together, and we have their custodians. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, beloved educators and members of the public. I am Eniola Azan, your host for Educators to the World. Welcome to yet again another mind-blowing episode. On today's episode, we have a representative from the Department of Library, Archival, and Information Studies. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
I'm very well.
Can you kindly introduce yourself to the audience?
Hi, I am Oluchi Esther Mbazilike, the Vice President of Library, Archive and Information Studies Students Association.
Okay. Can you give us a brief background story of your department?
Okay, so
What do Larry sites do? What does Larry stand for?
I already mentioned Larry stands for Library, Archival and Information Studies. And from the word library, we are being trained to be librarians in training. But looking at the way things are going right now, we do more than librarianship. We have other aspects that have come into play as a result of technology advancements. So basically, the archives part is different from library. Archives means records that, even though they are old, they are still very important and can't just be discarded. So that's where the word archives come from. So we also do archives management and the likes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ma. We have just 3 questions for you today. We will not waste your time. So, firstly, what makes your department unique? What sets your department apart from other departments in the Faculty of Education?
Okay, so we handle one of the most important resources in the world, which is information. Every sector deals with information. You cannot work without information. That's why you say knowledge is power, and knowledge is information that you have come to understand and internalized. So I believe that's what sets us apart from other departments. The fact that no matter what is happening, the technology advancement and everything, we're still going to need information, especially now that we have so many information out there. And in library and information science, we tag it as information explosion. So we are there to curb that, to help people understand that, okay, information is available does not mean they are actually relevant.
Okay,
So yeah, basically that's what we do.
You teach them to do not outsource, to really source for the important ones, the cogent.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for that beautiful answer. Moving on, what is the contribution of you safeguarding information? What does it contribute to the society?
I mentioned earlier that I want to say now that information is power. And imagine if the government has information about what we Nigerians actually need. And they're not just, checking online that, what can I do to make Nigerians like me? Or what projects can I carry out and stuff like that. But instead, getting concrete information from Nigerians themselves, instead of doing, what's the word now? Just
doing guesswork.
Yeah,
or relying on
guesswork, instead of getting concrete information, maybe through observation or deep research, asking Nigerians, what do you want?
So in a nutshell, you are trying to tell me now that Larry's, one of the functions or the contributions of Larry's to the society is helping us know what is important, what is pressing, what needs to be addressed ASAP.
Yes.
Okay, that got me, honestly. Before we continue, a big shout out to our sponsor for this episode, Income Gadget, your one-stop bus stop for phones, accessories, everything you can think of around University of Ibadan and its access. So finally for the show today, ma'am, I want to know what career paths because my son in the village, maybe I'll bring him to come and register for JAMB and choose Larry. So what career paths can he explore? under
Okay.
Laris?
Okay, that's a very important question, because even when I was in 100 level, 200 level safe, I was like, okay, after Larry's, what am
What
I going to
next?
do with this certificate? Right. And when I started getting that knowledge, I've tried my best to, help other people understand that, okay, you don't want to, because most times our lecturers will be like, you can be a lecturer. That's when you have your PhD and all that. But what if I don't want to be a lecturer? So I had to make my research and everything. Aside librarianship, that's working as a librarian, either in universities or
Or
secondary
secondary
schools.
school?
We can also work as data curators. We can work in as knowledge managers. We can have our own information consultancy. Right, you come here, ask for whatever information. We have our own private researchers, right? So instead of you doing the work, even data analysis is now something that we have come to embrace in librarianship, because
Sorry,
it
ma,
has
can
to
I
do with
interject
research.
you? I actually heard this from someone because recently I was planning to do some change of course stuff, and the person was like, "Why not transfer to Laris?" This person is a lecturer in Laris now. That why not transfer to Laris? And I was like, I don't think it is a path I want to explore because I don't know if I had told you before that I have a bad experience with librarians. I always have issue rough with libraries and librarians, even though I like books. I have issue rough with libraries and librarians. So I now asked, the person was not like, you don't necessarily have to work as a librarian. You can just do a course in data analysis or maybe a diploma in data analysis, bring it together with your library certificate, and you become something. Is that true?
Yes, that's why I mentioned that we have come to embrace data analysis, because research is not complete without analyzing the data you've gotten. Yes, so data analysis is also part of it.
Thank
And
you.
then let me apologize on behalf of whatever librarians you've encountered. And I want you to know that it might not even be a professional librarian that you encountered, because they are being trained. They are being trained to understand their users. You are not supposed to frown. Even if you had problems at home before coming to work, you have to have a good attitude to work. And I would say that's like a general problem, because in all sectors, you surely see people that don't have good attitude to work. So apologies on
Okay,
behalf of
so on
them.
your honor, I am forgiving every librarian that has ever crossed my path and made me angry at some point and made me cry too.
Oh, sorry.
So this is where we call it a day on today's episode of Educators to the World. Special shout out to our graphic designer, A1 Graphics. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a lovely week ahead. Bye bye.